Hi guys, it's Mrs. Gifford, and this is lesson 6.8 from our math book. I thought I would start this lesson with a little problem that our friend Puzzled Penguin has. So let's look at what he's done. Alright, so he's written to us and he says, "Dear math students, my teacher gave me this problem. Luther had 11 sheets of color paper. There were 6 orange sheets and the rest were blue. Today, he used 2 sheets of blue paper. How many sheets of blue paper does Luther have now? Here's what I did. 11 minus 6 equals 5. Luther now has 5 blue sheets. Is my answer correct? If not, please correct my work and tell me what I did wrong. Your friend, Puzzled Penguin." All right, so I want you to think about what you would say to our friend Puzzled Penguin. What did he do wrong in this problem? And what would you do to correct it? If you need a second, pause the video and think about what you would say to him and how you would solve this problem. All right, I hope that you took a second to pause the video and solve that problem for yourself. I'm going to show you how I would solve this problem. So first it tells us that we had, Luther had 11 sheets of colored paper. Now, 6 of those were orange, which means the rest of them were blue. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually exactly what Puzzle Penguin did. 11 minus 6 equals, 5. If it helps, you can also draw a picture. So if I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pieces of paper, I know that, 6 of them are orange. So I'm going to color in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, leaving me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are going to be blue. Now, this is where Puzzled Penguin stopped, isn't it? He just did 11 minus 6 equals 5. While that is an important step that we need to do, this is actually a 2-step problem because it wasn't asking us how many blue papers there were. It was asking how many pieces of blue paper he had now after he used 2 of them. So I'm not going to stop here. I'm going to figure out how many blue pieces of paper he had. And then in our problem, it says he used 2 sheets of blue paper, and we're asking how many he has left. So if I have a total of 5 pieces of blue paper, and then I use 2, does that mean I'm adding 2 to how many I have, or I'm taking away or using up 2 of them? I'm taking them away. So I'm going to subtract 2. 5 minus 2 equals what? 3. So if I go back to my illustration, out of these 5 blue pieces of paper that he used, or that he had, he used 2 of them. So I'm going to take 2 of those away. There are 3 pieces of blue paper left. So what are we going to say to our friend, Puzzled Penguin? If I wanted to write back to my friend Puzzled Penguin, I'd probably say something like, "You forgot to do the second step of that problem. You need to subtract the 2 pieces that Luther used from the 5 pieces of blue paper that he had to find out that he had 3 pieces of blue paper left." All right, now that we've helped our friend Puzzle Penguin, let's see if we can avoid some of the mistakes that he's already made with our own 2-step word problems. So let's look at this one. So it says, Annie took 8 photographs at home and 7 photographs at school. Her sister Amanda took 6 fewer photographs than Annie. How many photographs did Amanda take? So keep in mind, this is a 2-step word problem. So, what is the first step of this word problem? Pause the video if you need to take a second to think about it. All right, so the first step that we would have to figure out of this word problem is how many photos did Annie take altogether? Because if we don't know how many Annie took, then we don't know how many Amanda took because she only took 6 fewer than Annie took. So Annie took 8 photographs at home and 7 photographs at school. So if we're trying to figure out how many photos Annie took, are we going to add, subtract, multiply, or divide? We're going to add because we're combining the photographs she took at home and at school to get a total number of photographs that she took. So we're going to do 8 plus 7. And what does that give us? 8 plus 7 is 15. All right, so now that's our first step. This is where Puzzled Penguin stopped, but we know that there's a second step. Because 15 doesn't give us the answer to the question, how many photographs did Amanda take? It gives us the answer to how many photographs Annie took, right? So let's see what we need to do to figure out how many photos Amanda took. So it says, her sister Amanda took 6 fewer photographs than Annie. So is that going to be addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division? What clue words give you a hint? Yeah, that word fewer means that she took less photos. And we can't get less if we're adding, right? So we're going to subtract. So 15 minus 6. So what's 15 minus 6 going to give us? It's going to be 9. So what does that 9 represent now? That represents the number of photos that Amanda took. So are we done now? We are. We're done. It tells us now how many photos Amanda took, and that is 9. Now, just a word of encouragement on these 2-step math problems. You might have to read them a couple of times so that you really understand what it's asking you and what you need to do. So make sure that you're reading the question more than once so that you really understand what it's asking you, okay? All right, the next thing that you'll be asked to do for this math assignment is to determine the reasonableness of answers to a question. So this might sound like a little bit of review because we're going to use rounding to see if an answer is reasonable or if it makes sense or not. But this time we're doing it with 2-step problems instead of 1-step problems like we've done in the past. So let me read this problem to you and the answer that was given, and we're going to determine together whether that answer is reasonable or not. So here's the problem. Barry strings beads. He had 54 beads on a string, and he took off 29 beads. Then he took off 5 more. How many beads are on the string now? So the answer here says 35 beads. Now we want to know if that's close to the right answer, if it's reasonable, if it makes sense or not. So we're going to do that with either some mental math strategies or with some rounding strategies. So let's go over rounding a little bit. So if we took this first number, 54, and we rounded that to the nearest 10, what are we going to round it to? Are we going to round up? Are we going to round down? To what number? Since the ones place is less than 5, we are going to round it down to 50. So he had 50 beads on a string. And then it says he took off 29 beads. So if he's taking them off, that means he's subtracting them, right? So we're going to do 50 minus, and then 29, what is that rounded to the nearest 10? Since the ones place is a 9, that's 5 or above, we're going to round up to 30. So 50 minus 30 is 20, right? Oh, but are we done there? That's only one step, right? But I said this was going to be a two-step problem. And it is, because it says then he took off 5 more. Now, we don't really need to round 5 because we can easily do 20 minus 5, right? So if we do 20 minus 5, because it says he took off 5 more, 20 minus 5 is 15. So with our rounding and our mental math strategies here, we got the answer of 15. But the answer given was 35. Are those really close to one another? No, they're not. If they were off by like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 even, I would even say if it's within 10, then it's pretty reasonable if we're rounding. But even if we rounded 15 up to 20, that's still not anywhere close to 35. So our answer to this question, if it's reasonable or not, we're going to say no. The answer is not reasonable, and we would justify it by showing our work here, by showing how we figured out that the answer was not reasonable. All right, we're going to do one more problem where we determine if an answer is reasonable or not for a two-step problem. So this one says, during 1 week, Tina rode her bicycle 42 miles and Jim rode 9 fewer miles than Tina. How many miles did they ride all together that week? Now the answer given is 75 miles. We need to figure out if that answer is reasonable, if it makes sense, if it's close to the right answer or not. Okay, so Tina rode her bike 42 miles, and Jim rode 9 fewer miles than Tina. Okay, so first, if we're doing 42 and we're rounding that to the nearest 10, what are we going to round it to? Yes, we're going to round it down to 40. All right, so Jim rode 9 fewer miles than Tina. So if we see the word fewer, what does that tell us? Probably subtraction. All right, because fewer means less. So he rode fewer miles than Tina. And if we round 9 to the nearest 10, what are we going to round it to? 10. So if we do 40 minus 10, that gives us 30, right? So what does that 30 represent? So 30 represents about how many miles Jim rode. But that's not what the question is asking us, right? We're not done here because it's asking us how many miles did they ride all together that week. So this just tells us how many miles Jim rode. So if we want to know all together how many miles they rode, Jim and Tina, what do we need to do? Yeah, we need to add Tina's total number of miles to Jim's number of miles. So we're going to do 30 plus, again, we're going to round 42 down to 40. So 30 plus 40 equals what? 70. So with our own mental math and rounding strategies, we figured out that they rode all together about 70 miles, right? So then is this answer of 75 miles reasonable? Yeah, I would say anything within about 10 is reasonable. I mean, the answer that was given is only 5 off of the answer that we found, so the answer is yes. That answer is reasonable, and we can justify that by showing the work that we did there. So that's how you find out if answers are reasonable by using rounding strategies.